Welcome into Stacking the Box right here. I am Sterling Holmes, joined by Mike Luciano. Yeah, Ian just decided to bail. I don't know, man. It's kind of soft. He moves back to Canada, and I guess the Canadian in him is just going soft. USA, we're here, baby. Mike Luciano, how you doing, man?
I guess that 60-degree weather we got here was just too much for his Canadian persuasion over there.
Yeah, he
Get
couldn't
a little
handle
too
it.
warm.
Couldn't handle it. And the Falcons obviously not having a couple of draft picks, one taken away. He just can't handle the heat, so he had to get out of the kitchen. Mike is a Jets guy, so we'll talk a little Jets with him. We're going to talk about the upcoming draft, some of the rumblings surrounding the NFL. But first and foremost here, I want to talk about the bigger news. Again, not a ton of news right now, but Jalen Ramsey and the Dolphins agreeing to part ways. This is a interesting development because just a year or two ago, it felt like the Dolphins were going all in. He had signed that 3-year, $72 million extension. Seems like the Dolphins were about to be one of the premier teams in the AFC, and it fell off very quickly with injuries to Tua, with Tyreek Hill, and some of the back and forth going on there. And now, obviously, the agreeing with Jalen Ramsey and the Dolphins to part ways. Mike, what do you make of this?
When this hit, I was just so confused. Not only because of the contract. I mean, he's got 3 years, $72 million still left to be paid out, but I was under the impression that this would be kind of, as much as they could because they're financially very limited right now, kind of an all-out go for it. Let's try and save Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer's job kind of offseason, because if they don't make the playoffs, I don't see how they're back. Because that'll be 4 years without a playoff win. They'll pretty much regress. When he came in, we thought this was like the revolution, like the next great NFL passing game, and he's still good there, but certainly I don't think an elite coach. Trading Ramsey would just be, in my opinion, kind of waving the white flag. Like if I put a gun to your head right now and said, name 2 Dolphins cornerbacks that are not Jalen Ramsey, I bet you a lot of people would not come up with names like Kadar Kohu or Storm Duck or Artie Burns, who's still somehow in the league. I don't know how. Or Bump Cooper. That's a real guy. Bump Cooper.
All those names are phenomenal. Maybe they're going with the all-name team, and Jalen Ramsey just doesn't fit.
They could go with a secondary of Kadar, Bump, and Storm in their base defense without Jalen Ramsey. So it's looking bleak. In terms of teams that could trade for him, though, I'm looking right now. The first thing that came to my mind immediately was Green Bay, because Green Bay is a title contender. Green Bay has Jair Alexander. We don't know what's happening with him. It seems like they want to get out of the Jair Alexander business. And honestly, just looking at it, I would not be surprised if maybe Baltimore went kind of all in, because they have picks to trade. They have like 10, 11 picks. Marlon Humphrey, we don't really know. They thought TJ Tampa could be kind of that nickel dime, backup corner. He hasn't really done that. So you pair Jalen Ramsey and Nate Wiggins and Kyle Hamilton in the same secondary. That would be pretty tough to throw on. Those are my immediate 2 spots I want to see Jalen Ramsey end up on.
Yeah, I do think that's a very real possibility. The issue is obviously the contract. Will the Dolphins have to eat any of that money? That is a lot of money for a really good cornerback still, even at his age. But we will find out. What would be funny is if he goes back to Jacksonville. Jacksonville obviously has some cap space, and they have the draft capital to get it done. That would be a funny move from the Jags. I do think the Ravens, though, might be the most interesting.
He's probably going to have some say. I think he said, hey, you're going back to Jacksonville. I bet you a fit's going to be pitched at some point.
At some point, if it's not in the contract, you trade him. Doesn't matter where he wants to go. If he doesn't want to be there, doesn't matter where. All right, Travis Hunter came out and said he would quit football if not allowed to play both ways. Giants have come out and basically said, hey, no, we'll let him play both ways. Don't worry, we'll let you do that. What do you make of almost the demand of Travis Hunter playing both ways?
Well, I get why he's doing it. Deion Sanders also came out in support, saying that he already did it in college, and there's less time in between plays. So in terms of just number of plays you're playing, he's going to play less in the NFL. He's also not getting hit like he would in the NFL. I think the misnomer a lot of people have is they're expecting Hunter to be the number 1 receiver and the number 1 cornerback. I really don't think that's going to be what he ends up doing. What I think is going to happen is he's going to try to be the number 1 cornerback. I think most teams will keep him at cornerback. But if he goes to Cleveland, it seems like Cleveland is the spot for him. Why can't he be a number 2 behind Jerry Jeudy and catch, 50 passes a year? He doesn't have to get 110 catches a year. That's just too taxing. But also, there are certain guys that come along, like a Bo Jackson, where just athletically, they're in a different stratosphere compared to the rest of us plebeian mortals over here. And Travis Hunter seems to be in that. Not only does he have just the athleticism in terms of being fast and being very electric with the ball in his hands, but well built, great conditioning, seems like a great guy. Like, it seems like when he's not playing football, all he's doing is either playing video games or watching more football. Seems like he's just obsessed with it. So while I don't know if he's going to replicate the Colorado production, if there's anybody I've seen watching football that could do it, I really think he could do it.
Yeah, I find it interesting. I do think you're correct. I think he's a cornerback first and foremost with a smattering of wide receiver snaps. Like, he's not playing every single snap in the NFL, similar to what he was basically doing in college, just not quite as feasible. But what I think makes more sense is it's easier to have a sub package for him on offense than it is to say, all right, now we're going to have a sub package for you on defense, right? Yeah. And he's probably a better corner than he is wide receiver in general, just based on the positional value as well, where there's just fewer high quality corners versus the quality of wide receivers that have been out there. I think you're right. I think he's going to be a cornerback first and foremost. I think he'll be a wide receiver. Maybe he can get to 50, 60% of snaps in a game. That would be lovely to see. He is phenomenal either way. I'm very excited to see where Travis Hunter goes and what his NFL career looks like. Browns do make some sense, but I like the Giants' game plan of basically saying, hey, if you come here, you're doing both.
I will say one thing that could work against him is what if he's too good at one spot? Because I remember Champ Bailey when he went to the at the time Washington, and then he got traded to the Broncos. He did both in college too, and then they put him at corner. He immediately was one of the best cornerbacks in the league, and they said, we're not putting you as the number 3 wide receiver. So that might be a play too. If he's too good at one spot, they might just keep him there.
Yeah, makes it very hard, but exciting to see what happens with Travis Hunter. All right, give 3 teams, Mike, that you want to see trade up in the first round.
3 teams I would see want to move up. I would probably say, looking at the draft, I'm looking at teams that have tons of picks to give up. I'm looking at Buffalo first and foremost, because Buffalo has 3 picks, like compensatory picks, right near each other. They have 3 picks in the first 2 rounds because of different trades. And their needs are very clearly defined. They need some defensive line help. They need a cornerback. They need a wide receiver. I would love to see them move up, maybe into like the 20s or the low teens if they really want like a Walter Nolan or a Kenneth Grant or even one of the edge rushers like James Pierce or Shamar Stewart. I think they're a perfect trade-up team right now. Baltimore, again, because I just don't see with that roster how they're going to get 11 picks and have them all play some sort of role. I think they can move up for maybe an offensive lineman because they've really neglected the offensive line in terms of draft capital since they took Tyler Linderbaum. They really haven't spent a ton of money on a ton of draft picks, on the offensive line. I think that could be a good spot for them. Maybe move up again into that low sort of range if they really are obsessed with like a Josh Simmons, or hell, go up to the top 15, try to go Kelvin Banks hunting. You never know. Draft is wonky. And then also too, in terms of teams I want to see move up, I'm looking at the Chargers only because I feel like they got to start taking some big swings here. Because I feel of all the teams that are trying to unseat Kansas City, despite Denver having the year they had, the Chargers are still the closest. I don't know if Denver's going to get all the same pixie dust that they got last year. I want to see the Chargers say, I don't care. We're not going to go and get all these random skill position players. No more Quentin Johnston settling. Let's go high. Let's go into the top 12. Let's go for Omarion Hampton, Ashton Jeanty, even if he slides past like 6 or 7. If he's there at 9, move up for him. Justin Herbert is going to take care of himself. What he needs right now, because Greg Roman is not going to provide offensive creativity, he needs skill position talent. And he has Ladd McConkey. Ooh, and then what's left to Najee Harris? You're not beating Kansas City. Even if you get into the playoffs as a wild card, you're not probably even beating Houston with those as your top 2 skill position guys, as has been evidenced last year. So yeah, I'd love to see teams kind of on that fringe of taking down Kansas City that aren't there yet. I want to see them go, you know what? We think they're vulnerable because Eagles showed they're a little bit vulnerable. Let's go all out and try to beat them this year.
I think the Chargers make a lot of sense. Again, they need a lot of help again, you're right. The position groups like wide receiver, to an extent running back, tight end, they need some more talent injected there, especially game-changing talent outside of, again, one Ladd McConkey. I think an interesting one is San Francisco. I think the 49ers, they have 11 draft picks. They're there right now at 11. When is the next time they're going to be able to get a game changer, right? Typically speaking, we don't think they're always around. So they have a chance to move up. They have extra draft picks, 2/3, 2/4, 2/5, 3/7. But the 2/3, could you use that compensatory pick? The 4th round, could you use that compensatory pick? Can you use those to move up in the first? I also think the interesting conversation could be had. What if Shough falls? What if they take Shadur Sanders and say, hey, we're not paying Brock Purdy? We think that we can put almost any quarterback in this system, and it's gonna work. We think Brock Purdy's good, but we don't think he's an elevator. We thought Jimmy G was fine. He's not an elevator, and look what we did. Do we keep trying to get rookie quarterbacks, or at least rookie quarterback deals, and then surround them with tons of talent? If that's the way they choose to go, I actually wouldn't be shocked if they traded up to, let's say, 8. Where would that be at?
I will say, though,
9.
too, I'm not the biggest Brock Purdy fan, but if Brock Purdy's even like a 4th-round pick, I don't think there's this much discussion over, are we going to pay him or not, whatever. If he went in the 1st round, it's not even a debate they're paying him. So I don't want to keep holding Mr. Irrelevant against him here.
That's a different conversation. I think he's fine. I think he's an above-average quarterback, but I don't pay above-average quarterbacks. See Trevor Lawrence. See a plethora of quarterbacks in the NFL who have been over. See Dak Prescott. If you're not an elevating quarterback, I think that the best option for teams, especially San Fran, who's clearly had a system in place, if you can get average quarterback play, it's not about the quarterback. It's about every other position. So again, they sit at 11 with a lot of draft picks, 11 draft picks in this draft. I think San Fran, to me, that's the team I want to see trade up and make a splash. I guess Cowboys to an extent as well. Cowboys, they're drafting 12th, and they also have, what was their draft picks? They have 10, I think.
They have a bunch of extra, like the 4th or the 5th round, because Jerry's cheaping out here.
Yeah, they have 10 picks overall. They have 2 5ths, 2 6ths, 3 7ths, but the 2 5ths, could you trade up?
Or they just go all in, because I really think Jerry will see a guy like a Shadur or Travis Hunter, and irrespective of roster construction or what he needs, he'll get blinded by star power, and this guy would bring attention to the Cowboys. That happens all the time. I feel like there's a part of him that's just going to go all in. Hey, let's get whatever you want. Let's go. It'll be like Ricky Williams, the Ricky Williams trade. Like, whatever you want, fine, take him. Why can't we get Travis Hunter? I think there's a part of him thinking that.
Of course, it's the brand. This is the star. They're tired of Kansas City stealing their shine. They're no longer America's team. They've been passed. They now want to bring more relevancy back to the organization.
Before they signed Dante Fowler this year, who was with the Cowboys anyway, they hadn't paid an external free agent a multi-year deal since, I think, Greg Hardy.
Yeah.
It's 10 years. It's ridiculous.
Been a hot minute. All right, couple quarterbacks getting some love in the first round. Jalen Milroe, obviously. And then I always butcher his name. The quarterback from Louisville, Tyler Shough.
Shough, like Suge Knight, kind of.
Okay, Tyler Shough. I just know him as the quarterback from Louisville, getting first-round buzz according to Rossini and Peter Schrager. What do you make of these two QBs potentially going to the first?
You ever see that meme floating around of a record player where it says does not work but could be fun to fix? That's Jalen Milroe. Like right now, if you put him out there week 1, you're asking for 4-13. You're begging for it. Everybody compares him to Justin Fields, and it might be a lazy comparison, but it makes sense. Big arm, not good athlete, great athlete. He ran for 20 touchdowns last year at Alabama. Sometimes you just watch him drop back, though, and you're like, what is happening? That Oklahoma game where he got picked off 3 times was one of the worst games I've seen a top prospect, like of his level, playing quite some time. First round, I wouldn't hate it in the sense that if you think he's really the quarterback, you take him in the first round because it's quarterback. You don't cheap out there. But my God, it is such a heat check for whatever offensive staff takes him because they're saying, I can fix him. Kalen DeBoer was a great offensive coach. He couldn't fix him. but I got it because I'm him. That's what you'd be saying with Milroe. And I don't know if I'd like my team doing that. Tyler Shough is weird because if you asked me like a couple years ago, he was regarded as like a possible first-round pick because every year he just kept transferring and getting hurt. He hasn't played more than 7 games in a season except for the last year. If this was like a Hinge dating profile or whatever, and you were like, here are the flaws. Okay, he's 26, so he's older, so that's a flaw. Well, he must be a great athlete, right? Oh, no. He's not a good athlete at all. He just stays in the pocket a lot. Well, he's got a good arm. Well, yeah, kind of, but not first-round level. So he must be crazy accurate. Oh, no. He's got mechanical problems, so he's not crazy accurate. You're like, what's the draw here? It's not like Brandon Wiedenbaum, where he was 29 years old as a rookie, or what was the dude from Florida State, Chris Wenke, when he went to the Panthers. He was like 30 years old. He won the Heisman. I'm like, well, that's not fair. To win the Heisman at 30. It's not that bad, but on the end of his rookie contract, he's going to be 30. He's transferred twice. He gets hurt a lot. A healthy Tyler, like they got this Louisville Tyler Shough for years and years. I'm like, I could see it. There's enough there to work with. There's just so many red flags attached to him where I don't know how you even pick him, me, in the first 2 rounds, let alone the first round. And Diana Rossini's saying this is probably going to happen. I'm like, well, what is going on in front offices?
Yeah, we hear this all the time, and it feels like it's no longer as prevalent. We hear all the time that, well, you want to draft a quarterback in the first for the 5th-year option. The issue with that is if the quarterback's good, they're not seeing the 5th-year option. It doesn't matter. If the quarterback's good, that it's getting ripped up after year 3 guaranteed, right? So the 5th-year option doesn't make a difference, really. That's always been my outlook over the past, I guess, year or 2 now, since it's somewhat changed. I mean, when's the last quarterback that really played on the 5th-year option?
Been a while. You got to go back to like Mariota, Winston. I remember did that, which
but both weren't great.
Didn't work out, yeah.
And so, like, that's more or less my thought process here. Is I feel like teams, and I see it a lot here because Kansas City, obviously. Oh, you have 31. Well, a team will trade back into the first to get their quarterback with the 5th-year option. I don't see it. Now, if these 2 quarterbacks do go in the first round, it's great for Kansas City either way, right? That's great because that means that's 2 spots, 2 more players that are probably worthy of the first round or early second round grade that will be still available. I just don't think they're going to necessarily be trading back to 31 or 32 to get these guys. That's my personal opinion. I just think the 5th-year option has slightly become overblown when it comes to premium positions. I do think it still matters for, let's say, running backs if you're not going to give them a second contract. I think it matters for safeties, for linebackers, maybe the non-premium positions, if you will. But once it starts coming to the premium positions, if those guys are good, if you're a great wide receiver, if you're a great quarterback, you're getting paid.
The thought about taking Shough, like, not only is he going to be 26 a rookie, he may go to a situation, especially if they get picked late in the first round, where he's not going to play right away. So you've essentially got a 27-year-old rookie the next year. I can't see how that works. I really can't.
That's what you call a veteran right there.
Veteran moxie during the rookie minicamp. They're like, oh.
All right, Mike, you're a Jets guy here. Who should the Jets select in the first round?
There are 2 answers that are, Travis Hunter, obviously, but in terms of you count realistic options, there are 2 that stand out above the rest. Tyler Warren, Armand Membu. Those are the top 2. It seems like they're deciding between those 2 also. If you had to like ballpark it, I'd probably say right now it's probably 65-35, maybe 60-40. They take Membu, and then they go Warren with the other half. Really, because right now their right tackle is Chukwuma Okorafor. That's their starting right tackle. Elijah Vera Tucker is going to be a free agent. John Simpson's going to be a free agent. The offensive line is not it's good right now, but it could go from good to not so good if they don't extend one of those guys or draft particularly well. Pretty much, I think because of the ways they've handled wide receiver and the defensive tackle and bringing Derek Nottie in, I think those are the top 2 holes on this roster. So if they don't get one in the first round, they're going to go get the other position in the second round. If you had to ask me, I'd probably take Warren, because right now, if you looked at this Jets roster, outside of Breece Hall, because he catches a lot of passes, their second best pass catcher, wide receiver, tight end is probably Josh Reynolds. And then you get Allen Lazard. So their tight end room right now is Jeremy Ruckert and Stone Smart. That's their tight end room, which I'm not too excited about that. I don't think that's a hot take. Warren is a guy, I don't know how high the ceiling is, but he just seems so safe. Big, strong guy, moves around, blocks well, amazing after the catch for a guy that big. A guy where you don't know how high the ceiling's going to be, but for a guy like Justin Fields, too, who targets tight ends a lot, you got to think, like, there's no way this guy's bad. There's no way this guy's going to end up being bad. Membu, on the other hand, he's the higher upside swing. Right tackle, only turns 20. Freakish athlete for the right tackle. Big, fast. I mean, a 4.9 40-yard dash at 330 pounds is... If somebody ran that fast in real life, you'd crap your pants because you go, this is unbelievable. So I totally get why they're all in on Membu. And because also, like, people are talking about Will Campbell. Well, Will Campbell, you have to flip him. You have to put him from left tackle to right tackle. Membu, you don't have to do that. He can just naturally go in. And then you get your bookend tackles, him and Olufashinu, for the next decade. That is very appealing. I get why they're doing that. So if it's not those two, though, it's really up in the air. I've heard a lot of different things. I've heard trade down. I've heard Tetero and McMillan. I've heard a lot of different things, but those are the two that should be right at the top of the pedestal.
Yeah, I like Armand Membu. I like Warren a lot too. Don't get me wrong. He's almost a souped-up Taysom Hill, right? That's almost the best. He can do a little bit of everything too.
He reminds me of, like, before he became what he was, like first 2 years Kelsey.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a good comp.
But Armand Membu, as you see, I'm a big Mizzou guy. Mizzou helmet right behind my shoulder right there. Armand Membu is a stud, man. He is so damn good. He was too good. Wish he was going to fall to 31. Would have been phenomenal. But he had too good of a season. I really like Armand Membu. I think it would behoove the Jets to, again, offensive line have been such an issue for New York. Justin Fields, we know, cannot play under pressure. We understand that, right? It doesn't matter how many weapons he has. It's the pressure that really gets to him. Offensive line, that's the way I think that would make the most sense for the Jets. Is there a position, though, or a player that you're like, please don't let the Jets draft this guy?
They've visited with Shamar Stewart a lot, and Shamar Stewart has 4.5 sacks in 3 years. One of the weirdest evaluations I've ever had, because he's like Jadeveon Clowney level freak athlete. He had 40 pressures last year, 40, and 1.5 sacks. Like, you'll watch a film, and he just beats up offensive tackles, like physically, like speed, he got moves, plays the run okay. And then you look at the stat sheet at the end of the game, and he has 1 tackle and no sacks. You're like, how did that happen? It's so weird. I get that they like him, but like I've mentioned before with Milroe, it's a heat check for your defensive coaching staff. And I'm not into taking a heat check, number 7 overall, first pick ever of a new regime. If they trade down and get him like 17, 18, again, I wouldn't love it because you need a right tackle and a tight end and probably a receiver and maybe another defensive tackle. I wouldn't love the pick, but I at least kind of get it a little bit. If they go take him at 7, it's like, man, like, what are we doing here?
Well, it's the Jets. That's what they do.
The Jets' ideas at least look good on paper a lot, and then they don't work. Very rarely do they have bad ideas on paper, and then they're like, oh, well, of course it would have failed. A lot of times it looks like it's going to work, and it just doesn't.
I mean, Rodgers looked like it was going to fail from the get-go.
I mean, when he tore his Achilles 15 minutes into playing,
No. Prior.
Even prior, there's at least it's levels of quarterback play that they haven't had in a while. And if you just don't have an awful defense and Adam Gase level bad coaching from Jeff Ulbrich, there's a vision there. They went 7-10 with Zach Wilson. And then the Achilles popped, and then everything just, before it ever got started, went to hell.
Well, yeah. It's the guy. It's not the player. It's the guy. The player, Aaron Rodgers, would have made sense. Yes. The guy makes no sense.
It was weird, though, because everybody, they get rid of him. And I think I 3 or 4 players tweeted some variation of, man, this is BS. And they had to delete the tweet. So the players loved him. I get because they're frustrated because they don't want to go through another rebuild. And Aaron Rodgers, at least with that, you're not trying to rebuild. But players seem to like him. It just didn't work. And it may be the Achilles, who knows, but man, that was just nauseating. 2 years of nauseating play.
Do the Jets get to 7 wins this year?
No. Only because, and I think they're fine with that. I think Justin Fields will play better than he has in past years. I still think that there's something there. I think that I really do like the coaching staff that Aaron Glenn put together. Taking a lot of Lions guys. He took their tight ends coach to be their O-line coach. He took Tanner Engstrand. This is a team that I think still has good Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall are still good skill position players. I think the defense, when they had Saleh, they were still really good. And when they got rid of Saleh, they sucked. Wonder why that is. So I think if they just have a guy like Steve Wilks who's experienced and has coached in Super Bowls, and then Glenn back there, I feel like there's something there. The problem is the AFC is just so deep. And they're not better than Miami, and New England's made a lot of improvements, and Buffalo's still really good. So I think they're going to be in kind of that 6-win, 7-win tier. And I think they're fine with that. I think they just want to – this is all going to be like we're hiring an exterminator. Like, let's just get rid of the Aaron Rodgers stink. And that may lead us to 5 wins, but if we get rid of that, that'll be a successful year.
Yeah, no, it's not JETS, it's LOSS, 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 loss.
I've heard so many variations of that chant. SUCK suck. Like I've heard, it's so easy to mock that chant.
Patrick Peterson retires as a Cardinal, 8-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro. Kind of revitalized his career too. He lasted a lot longer than I thought he was going to. For the most part, played better later into his career than I thought he was going to. He was a favorite for the Chiefs to land for about 7 years. Never did. He's an honorable mention. The Chiefs should get that guy. But Patrick Peterson, I mean, seriously, Mike, what a career.
I do feel bad for him because it's just so much of his career were on not bad Cardinals teams, but horrible Cardinals teams, where he was like the only thing that was worth showing up to the game for sometimes. Him and Larry Fitzgerald, that was it. That was their team for a couple of years. A little bit of a throwback reference, but being close to St. Louis, you might remember. He reminds me a lot of Aeneas Williams. Same team too, all-pro corner every year, and then he was just on the Cardinals for all those years, and you're like, man, I just feel so bad for this guy. Because this guy is, I think, a future Hall of Famer. I don't think it takes him long to get him. It might take him 1 year, maybe 2. A guy who is part of, number one of the greatest classes ever, that 2011 class. He went 5th. I mean, above Julio Jones, above Tyron Smith. I mean, legendary player. And one of those guys where, because of how good he was at LSU, one of those guys where you just knew immediately, Hall of Famer, put a stamp on it. And I do wish that he really had some chances to contend. I know he went to Minnesota and Pittsburgh looking for that. But even though he played okay, he was not what he was. And we got 8 straight Pro Bowl years. 8 straight Pro Bowl years, and they were mostly wasted on if you just go on the list, 8 wins, 5 wins. Then they get okay with Bruce Arians. 7 wins, 8 wins, 3 wins, 5 wins. You're like, man, this poor guy. Can we get him something? So I do feel bad for him in that regard, but I hope history is very kind to him when they look at his whole career.
Oh, I think it will be. I mean, he ended up only playing in 2 playoff games total. That entire illustrious career, 2 playoff games, 1 with Minnesota when they lost in heartbreaking fashion, and then 1 in Pittsburgh. All right, Mike, appreciate it. A lot of fun right here on Stacking the Box. If you enjoyed this, even if you didn't, come on. Be nice to us. Give us a like. Give us a review wherever you get your podcast. Hopefully it is 5 stars. Any comments we will read on the podcast as well. Before we get out of here, Ashton, Jeanty, if you're listening to the audio podcast, it's gonna roll. Just gonna roll right into Ashton, Jeanty. If you're listening to it and watching right here, make sure you go on the Stacking the Box page and go check out the Ashton Jeanty interview that I did. One of the most fun interviews I have ever done. Energetic guy, entertaining, just that guy we all know is going to be a stud. Boise State, and I even asked about the field. I said, hey Ashton, now that your career in Boise State's done, what are your real thoughts on the field? A lot of fun talking with him, so make sure you check that out. Appreciate everyone listening and hanging out with us. Mike, any final words?
Can the Jets just please get this right?
No.
I love coming on Stacking the Box, love doing all this stuff, but how many variations of, boy, the Jets screwed it up again every single year.
Someone has to be the mess up, and that is the Jets. Until next time.
Us and the Browns, man. Us and the Browns.
Great company. Until next time, we are out.